All right, so I have Nolan Whitley here with Atlas Mills Van Lines over in Strongsville, correct?
Correct.
Perfect. So I'm constantly getting questions from my sellers and even my buyers on moving. And I had the opportunity to meet Nolan last week, and I was impressed by everything he was doing. And, basically what he had to say to my clients. And the good thing is he got some business out of the deal. So I wanted to bring him on so you guys can get some value as well in terms of, making sure that you're moving properly, not making stupid mistakes that sometimes people make. One of those is waiting to the last minute to move, trying to pre-plan for that. So Nolan and I are going to have a little conversation here. Hopefully it adds some value to you. But Nolan, do you want to introduce yourself? Anything I might have missed?
No, you got it all right. I'm with Mills Van Lines out of Strongsville. We kind of are the largest Atlas van lines. So we're the biggest hauler, and we've been in business for over 40 years.
Perfect. So with that, when you guys obviously get an initial call with one of, a prospective, prospect client, whatever you want to
hmm
refer to that as, what are some of the first things that you're kind of, trying to discover from them?
Obviously, you want to get a good idea of, obviously where they're going. If it's a local move, that's a bit, that's a different story. If it's going interstate, where are they going? Is it to a hot destination? Is it, going to Utah? Something that's not a lot of a lot of people are going there. Finding out that first, finding out the date second is obviously pretty big. Is it next week? Is it tomorrow? You have people that call and ask if we can move them tomorrow. Or if it is at the end of the year, what is it? And obviously the third thing we look for is setting up a time, either to meet in person or do a virtual, like a FaceTime, or we have an app we can use to kind of set up a time to meet, so we can kind of see what you're looking to bring. It's very difficult when someone just gives you, hey, I'm moving just a bedroom here, a bedroom set here. It's hard to gauge what that means, because everybody's idea of a bedroom set's different. So once we do that, either in person or virtually, I'm able to come up with an estimate based off of that.
So one of the big things that I get clients asking me is like, why are they asking how many pounds? And Nolan, why don't you kind of explain to people, the importance of weight, why it's a number that you guys are always asking for, and how you're actually able to help them get that number through either a virtual tour or in-person meeting.
Absolutely. So the weight drives the price. So obviously, the more you have, the more expensive it's going to be, just like anything else. So coming up with that weight is important, because it obviously gives us an idea of how much room you're going to be taking up in the truck, because the trucks hold about 35,000 pounds. So it's a hold, a lot. They're tractor trailer, 18-wheeler trucks. So we need to figure out how much space are you going to take up in there. If you're only taking up, you know what I mean, a little bit, how many other shipments can we get on there that's heading in the same direction that you're going? So that's why it's very important.
No, it makes sense. And then with that, when you guys get off that initial call, is there like a checklist that you're sending them? Is there other tips and tricks for packing that you're providing, or is that something you have to ask for?
Absolutely. I kind of go over with them. A lot of times, hey, is your company paying for it? Is another question I ask, because if they're paying for it, they want everything. Obviously, the gold
Mhm.
package, I should say, want us to pack and unpack and ship their cars and everything like that, which is great. But somebody who's paying out of pocket, hey, how can I save money? How can I make this as cheap as possible? I kind of give recommendations of things I could recommend to them to save money. The things that get expensive, the things that you can do on your own, since
Mhm.
you are driving, it's not a far distance, you are taking your car. Well, what items can you take in your car? You are going up that way a couple times to sign the house. Take some things every single time you go. Everything you take is only going to be less work for us, which means the price will be cheaper.
Everybody likes a cheaper price too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, talking about making things cheaper, one is reducing the weight.
Mhm.
So, what are some ways that you typically suggest people get rid of stuff that they shouldn't be moving? What kind of, tips can you provide there?
Absolutely. I will say one of the biggest ones is TVs. A lot of people want to move TVs, but the problem is it's expensive too.
Mhm.
Obviously we don't want to just throw a TV in a truck. We package it up in a TV carton, which is expensive. And then you add, do we need to unmount it and remount it at destination? Sometimes when you add all those costs in, depending on how many TVs you have, it's actually cheaper to just get new TVs. So a lot of people will just, hey, we're selling the house with the TVs as is. We're going to buy new ones because nowadays TVs are cheap. Another one I will say is, wardrobe boxes. If anyone is not familiar with a wardrobe box, they're tall boxes that you actually hang the clothes up on a hook, and they kind of hang down. So we call them wardrobe boxes. Those are always take up a lot of room because they're tall. You can only stack so many of them on top of each other. So stuff like that, if you take those in your car or lay them down, that's going to take up a lot less space in the truck, and opposed to it's just a smaller medium moving box. So those are two things I usually try to recommend to people.
Perfect. And then what are things that you see that people try to move that then they're getting mad when you show up and they're like, well, what am I supposed to do with it now? I had no idea. One thing that I always remember is propane tanks. So what other suggestions there can we kind of throw out to give people a heads up not to try to move?
Absolutely. Any cleaning supplies, oils, anything that's really opened, honestly. A bottle of wine that's half drank. I mean, it's stuff like that that gets spill, and can get on your bed and and your couch and et cetera, and your clothing. You don't want that stuff on there. And I know everybody wants to, bring everything they can, but stuff like that is so cheap and minimal, to replace. A bottle of bleach, for example, it's not worth bringing half that bottle of bleach. You can get it for $3, but if that gets on your bed and your couch, I mean, you're gonna be pretty upset. So stuff like that, it's definitely a no. And same with gasoline, things like that. We could take the grill, just like you said, it's not the tank.
Yep. And then, you brought it up to me, but obviously there's certain people out there that, especially in certain clientele, have wine rooms and big liquor cabinets and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So what's your suggestion with that sort of stuff? Is that also same as wardrobe if you can put it in your car versus pack it with us?
Yeah, obviously that'll save you money, obviously. But there's some people that have wine cellars and they have over 2,000 bottles of wine and liquor, which is awesome. With that being said, we do have a third party that can obviously keep it temperature controlled and actually deliver it to you in a separate delivery. That is an option. But as you know, that does get more expensive when you add on different premiums like that.
No, it makes sense. So speaking of that, because I mean, we're talking about ways that stuff can be damaged.
Mhm.
But when it comes to insurance, what can you share about insurance and kind of take us through that?
Yeah, so the insurance, I tell people it's just like anything else. Like you get insurance for, you get insurance for, your iPhone because things can happen. You drop it, there's mistakes happen. Obviously, the crew that arrives, they wrap everything properly. They place everything in the truck, properly. They make sure it's secured and strapped down. But sometimes you're going 2,500 miles. I mean, they're going just on the freeway, hitting potholes. I mean, stuff like that happens. So like I said, there's a chance that something could break, or it takes a wrong bump and this cracks or this needs fixed, which it's nice to have that insurance because we will help out with that repair, or replace what was broken. So it's always nice to have that. Obviously you pay up for that, but obviously just like anything else you do for the iPhone, but in case it breaks, it's nice to have.
Right. And I would assume the cost really isn't that bad if there is a lot of expensive stuff that you're carrying. And does it include, because at least last time I moved, there was a little bit of damage on some of my furniture, but somebody actually came out and was able to repair the furniture to a point you couldn't even tell.
Mhm.
And the good thing is I didn't have to pay anything for it because I already paid up front. So is there typically a deductible, or is that something outside of the initial cost? Do you have to pay anything else if something goes wrong?
Yeah, so there are actually three different options. There's no deductible, there is a $250 deductible, and a $500 deductible. So there's different options. There's another option actually. It's the basic if you don't want any insurance. It's 60 cents per pound per item. That one I usually don't recommend because for example, TV nowadays weighs a couple pounds. 60 cents per pound. I mean, you
Get a
might be
couple.
getting a dollar, dollar $2 at the most. So that's not the best. So there's different options for each customer, but also depends on what you're shipping. Some people that they sold all their furniture, they're moving out of New York, and they just want their clothes shipped. I understand if you don't want to get insurance. All you're shipping is boxes of clothing, which is it's convenient and it's easier. You should not get it. I agree. But for people that are moving their entire household and they're moving West Coast, it's definitely I think definitely necessary.
Right. So speaking of, we keep bringing up like costs, and I know you can't give a specific cost if it's a local move or a long distance move, but when it comes to pricing and you're giving quotes, one of the big things is, and I will never forget it. One of my close friends that lived out of state was moving over to Virginia,
Mhm.
going from the west to the east, and he called a broker, and the broker quoted him a price, and then before you know it, things are getting ready to go, and his price is getting jacked up several thousands of dollars. He's all upset. He's calling me, just being a real estate agent. He's
Mhm.
like, what do you know? What can you help me out with? And my suggestion is always call the moving company directly,
Mhm.
because in his situation, he backed out of the deal. The guy kept all his initial deposit, and there was
Mhm.
nothing he could do about it. So, what's your suggestion? I guess, giving quotes, talking directly to somebody like yourself versus calling, a company that's just going to broker it out to, you know, a bunch of different people and see where he can get the cheapest price.
Absolutely. The one thing I will say is that you have to look for is companies that want you to pay up front, either half deposit or pay in full before when your move's a month and a half away. In our industry, that's very, very sketchy. It's just it's like paying for a plumber to come over before it gets there. I mean, he doesn't really know what needs to be done, and we don't really know exactly what the truck's going to be weighed in at until we actually weigh it. Obviously, we have an estimate, but once we get closer, we're able to kind of pinpoint that what that price is going to be. So it's very difficult when people call at times say, "Hey, I went with this company. They were like $4,000 less." Okay, and you'd be surprised how many calls I get about
Mhm.
a month or so later when their move was taking place, and they tell me, "Hey, they didn't show up. Can you come now?" I'm
Yeah.
like, and obviously there's times we can squeeze them in and we can make it happen. But it's unfortunate because it's just like anyone else. If me and you are moving and you get a price that's $4,000 less, and they said they're going to do the same thing. I mean, why wouldn't you take it?
Right.
You just want to make sure you have a credible and reliable moving company. I think that's the biggest thing because some of these companies they're very good at making it look like they're a legitimate company, and they just take your money. There are a lot of scams. There's a lot of people out there that aren't really trying to move you. They're just trying to sell you to somebody else. Says, hey, take care of this move. You know what I mean? And we'll give you a little bit. You get a lot of that. So you just want to make sure you have a reliable company.
So something too that Nolan and I were talking about earlier was when he gives estimates. And one of the big differences that he tries to do is maybe overestimate a little bit. And you want to talk about that and kind of explain kind of your philosophy with your pricing.
Absolutely. So just like anyone else, you want the estimate to be low. I mean, that's what customers want. They want a lower price. But the last thing you want is, to give somebody an estimate. Let's say it's $10,000, and then it ends up being 15. You know what I mean? That's the last thing. That
Yeah.
somebody wants when you're moving. It's already expensive as is. So we try to, I've kind of changed over and kind of done. I'm not going to try to just be dead on. I'm going to maybe go above maybe the weight of that I think it might be. And the only reason being is because obviously it's very difficult to see everything in a video call or if it's in person, or things that may be in a storage unit that they said it's empty, but they end up bringing stuff over, or they buy new things, or things that that can happen. So it's better to have a higher weight because we're prepared for it. We could still haul it because we're expecting 10,000 pounds, and it ends up being 8,000 pounds. We're still prepared to bring that stuff. So I will say that's pretty big right there. Um, so
So let's keep talking about that for a sec. I would assume this happens to fall into place where people make some common mistakes,
mhm.
what they tell you versus what actually happens. So, what are some common things that you guys deal with on your end that can maybe educate somebody watching this to where they're not going to fall into a trap and then be upset because it's going to cost more because they obviously didn't say the right thing?
Yeah. So what I tell people is, things that I think is very helpful is when people are moving and they want to sell a lot of things because they're getting new things at their new destination. So we walk through the house and they, oh, we're not going to go in those three rooms. Everything's going to be gone, And I say, "Hey, wait, can I go in there and take a look? Because either I'll put in there not going, not going, not going of the items that are in there, so I can come up with it. When we go to their house and it is end up being more, well, hey, we weren't shipping anything in that room. We even have it on here not going, So that's the way we can do it. Another way is, hey, let's just say one of those two rooms are gonna go. just to be safe. I mean, hey, listen, you're not being charged for it if that room does not go and it ends up not going. But what if it does? That could really throw you off. And last thing I want to is give you an estimate that ends up spiking up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I might be more than the other company, but I know that price should come down because I had those rooms in there that you said were not going.
Yeah, and I think it even comes into the play when I'm doing listings, because what happens a lot of times is I'll walk in and I'll point out all the different things that somebody should be doing.
Mhm.
And the big thing of time comes into play where it's like, well, I thought I was going to have the time.
Mhm.
I ended up getting too busy. Stuff happens in lives every day that we're not expecting. And next thing you know, if they're sitting there saying you're going to move something
Yeah.
and then you don't have the time to do it,
Mhm.
um, I've had clients, actually, I was taking pictures one day, not myself, but my photographer, and he calls me up and he's like, Damien, unfortunately, there's boxes everywhere. And I get in my car and I drive over there, and my client's sweating, panicking, anxiety through the roof,
Mhm.
and life got a hold of her and things came up. So I can only assume that that happens probably more often than not when people are saying they're going to pack or they're going to do certain things and then you guys show up. Is that sometimes a common problem or?
It is a problem because sometimes someone plans on packing the entire house, everything into boxes, and we're just kind of doing the bigger items, the furniture and in the beds, and the bigger items that need to be wrapped with blankets or saran wrap. But then all the content, all the dishes, and all the clothing and the artwork, etc., that was going to be on them, and that's where they save money. But sometimes we get there and they didn't do anything, which is fine. But if that's going to be the case, having a phone call, ahead of time, hey, listen, Nolan, I'm not going to be able to package as much as I thought. I only did half of it. Giving us a little bit of heads up is good for us because we could plan. Obviously, we plan on the spot when we get there. Obviously we have to get everything out there, so it pushes everybody back a day.
Mhm.
Like I said, there's other shipments on that truck, so everybody gets, I should say, gets affected by that. So it's nice to be able just for our needs to plan because if last thing you want is for every single person to be doing that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't make that delivery window that we set for everybody. So it's nice to be able to know that.
So one other thing that can probably save some people time, and I don't know if everybody thinks it's common sense or not, but I've at least experienced it a couple times where people unpack their dressers
Mhm.
and they shouldn't have because, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but a lot of times the movers would prefer to move it with the clothes in the dressers. Is that
Mhm.
correct? Or
Yeah. Obviously, that's what we like to do. I will say that there's some times where the dressers are they're impossible to get down the stairs. Which is fine. They would take the drawers out, and then carry it down, then put the drawers in, and wrap it. Normally, the most dressers, you can keep everything in there as long as it's just clothing. It's not any glasses or you're throwing anything else in there that that could break. Clothing's fine. They'll actually saran wrap it, and then wrap it in blankets and drawers don't fall out and it's protected during transit.
and then you brought up another thing that I just want to touch on real quick, but there are certain people like we have fine art in our house.
Mhm.
So when people are moving fine art, obviously that is a no-brainer on insurance as far as I'm concerned, but
Mhm.
I would assume just like TVs, there's special boxes that you guys have to either have or put them into because I wouldn't want blankets around my fine art. So is
No,
that
absolutely.
something else that can get pretty pricey in terms of if somebody has a big collection, or is that
Yeah,
a third-party service that you guys use?
yeah. So it just depends. Obviously, if it's just typical artwork that isn't, I usually say if it's about 1,500 pounds or more, I consider that a high value item. We have high value item forms you could fill out per each item if something is of that caliber. Um, but to bring it back to what you said about if it is, more expensive, how do we handle it? People that have signed autograph jerseys. I had somebody that had a signed autograph Michael Jordan jersey
Oh,
in a
wow.
frame. It was a beautiful. I wouldn't want to just have that wrapped. So what we do is we would crate that. Crating is very known in our industry. It's kind of what we do. If, something that's big or something that's very fragile. It would be crated. So what we would do is we'd put it between two pieces of wood. We would, create a special crate for it and put
Mhm.
cardboard so it can't fall either way. It's protected. And then we'll also, crate it on one end and then uncrate it at destination, which people do that for all sorts of things. If it's marble, if it's granite, stuff like that, you just can't wrap and blanket. You don't want that to break. So that stuff like that would get crated. And anything along those lines, artwork, TVs. Some people they have curved TVs. We usually grade all curved TVs.
Mhm.
Just stuff like there's a lot of variables, but anything on those lines we would crate.
What about like baby grands? So
Yes. Yes. So yeah, baby grands, that's a big one. Pool tables, that's a big one. Any sort of like air hockey, stuff like that, we would, depending on, the quality of it, we would create them.
So, in terms of, because you can probably give me a ballpark for this, but in terms of moving locally or moving states away,
Mhm.
what's the lead time that somebody should be giving you guys so you can properly schedule, manage?
Mhm.
Is there certain time
It-
frames or?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, people that want to, our biggest window is when it's nice out. Everyone wants to move when it's nice and it's good weather. So from, about May and until about, September, that's when we're the most busy. If you want to move in January, you could call, a week or two in advance and we probably could fit you in. But it's the people that want to move, they want to move next week and we're in July right now and we're sold out. You know what I mean? So it's difficult to fit somebody in or, help them out. So that's one difficult part. Um, I believe. Yeah.
So going on that too. So everybody knows Uber nowadays, and we haven't been able to use Uber lately just because, we've been kind of hidden away in our houses for the last year. But one of the things that we experience with Uber quite often is during peak times. You just mentioned
Mhm.
basically the nice summer weather when most people are listing their homes.
Mhm.
But in that sense, do you guys have peak pricing or surcharges just like Uber does when things are super busy to kind of set that expectation with people?
Yeah, obviously, if people are calling right now and they want to move on Friday and we can fit them in, the price is going to be more expensive. It's like buying an airline ticket right now
Yep.
for a flight you want to fly out tomorrow. You're going to pay a lot higher price than if you ordered in May.
Yep.
And obviously, I think that's in every industry, honestly. So yeah, the price is going to be, higher if you order last minute. I think that's anywhere. So I would, yeah.
So maybe listing your home at different times of the year versus when everybody else is trying to. There's not only benefits on our end, but there's sounds like there's benefits for you guys too. At least in terms of pricing, it's going to be a little more affordable during non-peak times.
Absolutely. And the one thing I will say as far as a delivery time, not a delivery time, a listing time of when, you list your house, when should you call, blah, 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 is, normally when you list that house, you have an idea of when you're moving in your other house.
Yep.
And so if you plan on being out by the end of the month, don't wait until you actually get a listing. I mean, you get, have some buy the house, and have that date. I mean, it's better off to have something on schedule, even if it's worst case scenario, we're going to be out by this day. We have a mover lined up. And if we're able to move you back up because that date is available, we can. But at least you have something in line and probably going to be at a cheaper price. So it's better to have something in line in case. And if we need to move you up, we can.
Yep. So for anybody out there watching, don't wait till after your home is sold. Start talking to them during either the listing process or even up front, kind of getting pricing and estimates, because one of the biggest things is going back to your time is if you can start decluttering your house, getting rid of things, if it's through Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, or
Mhm.
donations, or family friends. Everybody
Yeah,
likes, freebies that they've seen in your home that you aren't going to move.
absolutely.
So that's just something else to consider. Um,
I will say that, when you are moving, obviously you're more familiar, but the person that's listing the house, I mean, they're the one that is in control here. If they don't want to sell, if they don't want to be out of that house until this date, and they know I'm scheduled that last week to be there, I mean, they can use that as your benefit. I mean, some people are like, we need to be out next week. Well, why'd you say that? That it's your house. You should set the date. So people get nervous about that. Well, I got the price I wanted, so we're listening to them. But you also have to put in consideration that you haven't talked to anybody,
yeah,
so, you're going to be paying more. So you might be getting more money for the house, but you might be getting charged a lot more for your move. So it might not even balance out.
no, absolutely. Is there anything else that you would want to share outside of what we've talked about? I think we've covered some good things here.
Yeah, the other thing I will say is, obviously, moving, everyone's expecting like a household, things like that. One thing we do, is the smaller moves, the things with the apartment complexes, someone who has a 1 bedroom studio apartment, or, you're a college kid, or, you're a young professional and you don't have a whole household worth of goods. And people wonder, well, it's gonna be so expensive. How do I move my stuff to Brooklyn? I'm moving to New York from Cleveland. It's gonna be so expensive. We have different options, for that. We kind of have like a pod option, I should say. We call them lift vans, that we can actually ship your stuff in. It's cheaper than going into a tractor trailer truck. So stuff like that. We work with people like that. We if you're going to a major city, we can obviously accommodate stuff like that. So that I always say, I think kind of gets hidden, or kind of, isn't really unknown in our industry. So it's always good to kind of know more information.
Well, and at least anything, getting the price and understanding if it's something you should try to do yourself, or
Mhm.
like many
Yeah.
situations, it probably won't make sense after you
Mhm.
have to pack everything. Because with the pods, are they still packing themselves, or is that something that you guys would even come and load, depending
With the
on?
with the lift vans we do, we actually do pack everything for you. We call it
Oh,
a simplicity move. So it includes, well, I'll actually say one more thing. It includes us packing everything up and loading, the lift van. The other thing about that is nice is when you're moving out of apartment, you normally can't fit a tractor trailer semi truck into an apartment complex.
no.
You're not, especially in a major city like New York or Chicago or LA. I mean, it's difficult to get a tractor trailer into that apartment complex. So in that case, there's things we do called a shuttle. So what it means is we're pretty much bringing your items in a tractor trailer truck, and then we're gonna shuttle it into a smaller box truck that we can get into your destination apartment complex, wherever it is, and then unload and go from there. Um, with the simplicity order that I said with the lift vans, it actually includes a shuttle on origin and destination, because most likely if you're moving out of an apartment, you're moving into another apartment somewhere else in a bigger city, or whatever the case may be. So that's already included into there. It gets expensive when you add shuttles as well, because just like anything else, you're moving things twice,
Yep.
and that includes it.
So one of the other things too that I get some people asking about, and I don't know if you guys do this or not,
Mhm.
but do you guys do storage in the event that they're picking up, they're going to hold it for 20 days, 30 days,
Mhm.
and then move into the house? Because sometimes people want their homes vacant. And
Yeah, they want to
um,
get a cleaner in there, whatever the case may be. Yeah, we do actually have storage facilities all across the U.S. So yeah, we can store goods as long as you want, either at origin or at destination, and we can include the price. So it includes delivery, out of storage, etc. So when I give someone an estimate, I'm trying to give them that price as, listen, everything's included. It includes us coming out of the storage, and everything above.
and then when you were, and this is just, I think, my last question here, but when you were referring to like a gold package, if an employer's paying for it, I
Mhm.
would assume that if there are different levels, it's, the basic versus you guys come in, because I've seen it to where movers have spent 3 days in somebody's house packing everything and meticulously putting it away,
Mhm.
versus the homeowners trying to do it. Is that basically the difference in service, or?
Yeah, I said there's not even a gold. I just kind of said that.
Right.
But there are different options. It honestly just depends. Sometimes when work's paying for it, you don't want to touch a finger on anything, which is fine. I mean, if they're gonna pay for it, you just send them if you just send it to them and they sign off on it, it's great to give all the packing included and then unpacking. And you needed shuttles, and they're gonna ship your car, and they're paying for your flight. I mean, that's nice. Take advantage of that. So everyone's different. I mean, sometimes people are just they're so busy with work they want us to unpack stuff for them, and unpacking is great. But the one thing about unpacking is we don't actually put anything away into like cabinets or drawers. It's just on anything that's on a tabletop. So if it's on an island, your kitchen table, we reassembled for you, just because we don't know where you want things. But
Yep.
at least all the boxes we could take as well. But at least it's there. You just have to put it away. So there's different options. Some people that move a lot, like I said, they kind of know kind of what they want now. So a lot of people that are newer, frequently have questions to ask. I mean, don't be ashamed. I mean, not many people move that often. So when you do,
Yep.
ask the right questions, and don't feel like you're bothering any of us.
Cool. So Nolan, unless you have anything else you want to add, do you?
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
I'm going to have Nolan's information underneath this video. So if there are questions that you have, or you'd like to talk more about moving with Atlas Mills Van Lines and using Nolan as your representative, he's awesome. And I've talked to a lot of different people out there, and sometimes I get a little annoyed with some of the responses I'm getting. So I have not had that feeling with Nolan at all. So that's why I wanted to bring him on to give you guys some insight and just add a little value in terms of, making your move a little easier. So his information will be below, to where you can contact him directly. And if you guys have specific, questions, comments, feel free to add those and we'll get those answered as well.
Perfect. Well,
All right.
thank you again for having me on.
Thank you. Okay. Do you want to stop cloud recording? Yes.